Movie theaters better start preparing themselves for Avatar 2 because
the humans are returning.
Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing editor here at CinemaBlend, with a spoiler-free review reaction to James Cameron's highly anticipated sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water. We have been waiting 13 years to return to Pandora with James Cameron, the master of not only blockbusters, but sequels. Think about it. This is the man who gave us Aliens and Terminator 2. And when he decides that he's going to make a follow-up feature, we sit up and pay attention. So, Avatar: The Way of Water expects to be the blockbuster that brings everybody back to the theaters this holiday season, and I'm here to tell you whether it's worth your time. Again, you can watch this without spoilers. I'm not going to give away any of the key plot details, but I will just discuss some of the things that worked for me really well in the sequel and maybe a couple of things that didn't. To make sure that you keep up to date with everything that we're doing here at CinemaBlend, in addition to spoiler-free reactions and reviews like this, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on your notifications, and you guys will be the first ones to hear about when a new video drops.
Let's get it done.
Right off the bat, I want to talk about the fact that Avatar: The Way of Water has a better story than the first Avatar film and much better character development. Now, I feel like everybody's opinion about the Avatar sequel should be based upon how they maybe felt about the first movie, because the first movie was, without question, a huge success and was, for different points of time, the highest grossing film in the world. However, there's a weird backlash against Avatar and the fact that people say that, like, no one talks about it and it didn't have a cultural stamp on pop culture. And I think that that is wrong. That's just wrong, because we have been talking about the franchise, maybe not in the most positive ways. We do sort of knock the story a little bit, but the visuals were always the reason why people singled out Avatar and the work that James Cameron did in 3D specifically. If you saw Avatar, you had to go see it in the big screen. In the 13 years that he's been developing not just Avatar 2, but from what we are to understand, Avatar 3, 4, 5, and maybe 6 and 7. James Cameron has at least done his research and his homework into developing these characters into people that we legitimately care about. That was my biggest issue with the first movie, is that Jake Sully, the soldier played by Sam Worthington, was not somebody that I necessarily got behind as a hero. I didn't really care for him or why he got into his avatar and ventured down to Pandora. And because the Na'vi, the native people of Pandora, were so alien to us, it was tough for me to really invest in their plight. And of course, the defending of this tree, which was a significant story in the first movie. However, by the time we start with Avatar: The Way of Water, both Jake and Neytiri, who is played by Zoe Saldana, have created a family. And James Cameron leans very heavily into a parent's need to sort of protect their young. Now, full disclosure, I have 2 kids, as you guys might know if you watch any of our videos. So this played really heavily into me as a parent. Like, I totally understood where Cameron was coming from in terms of bad things are happening to this family. They are on the run because of events that happened in the first movie. And essentially, Jake Sully and Neytiri want to protect their blended family. And I was invested in that storyline. But even still, the new characters that we meet through the course of this story, mostly kids, are ones that we really buy into. They have full character arcs. They have real problems that they need to solve. They have issues both within the family and outside of it that I was fully invested in. So over the course of the long 3+ hour runtime of Avatar, it didn't matter which character we were with. I was 100% on board with the story and was really, really excited to see where James Cameron was going with it.
Wherever we go, this family is our fortress.
Of course, this is a James Cameron movie, so we have to talk about the visuals because they are improved from the first time out. Listen, it's been 13 years, and James Cameron, as much as he is a gifted storyteller, is somebody who is always pushing tech to the edge of what is possible. And yes, the 3D in this movie is spectacular. If you're going to go see it, make sure you see it in Dolby 3D. The IMAX will give you sort of the Dolby sound, but if you can find a theater that specifically is doing it in Dolby 3D, that is the best format that James Cameron and producer John Landau would like you to see. We get to explore new corners of Pandora that are breathtaking, and it transitions everything from the forest atmosphere of the first movie to a more water-based structure, and then hence the subtitle The Way of Water, because when Jake and Neytiri run away from the threat that is happening in their forest, they hide out with this a new camp of Na'vi that are basically stationed at the shore. And because of that, we spend a lot of time with the family as they learn to sort of live inside of the water and work with the creatures that are there, and blend with that tribe that is on that coastline, and really become ingratiated into that family, essentially. And it's beautiful. I mean, James Cameron talks a lot about how he came up with new cameras and new techniques to be able to film underwater. It's hard for me as a viewer because I just don't understand 100% fully how the visual effects artists at Weta do this, but like, all of it looks like it's kind of underwater or animated, and I don't know really what was filmed in water or filmed out of water, but there are some breathtaking scenes of fights that like begin in the air and go into the water. There are chase sequences that happen in the water, and I just think we've come so far as an industry to even point to, you know, maybe like James Wan's Aquaman, or earlier this year we got to see Black Panther Wakanda Forever that took place in a number of different sequences that took place underwater. To see how James Cameron does this, to see the way that he pushes the envelope and shoots all of these things in the brightest light possible, you're able to follow everything, and it's mesmerizing, truly mesmerizing the way that he pushes technology in this film. The Na'vi, we spend almost all of our time with the Na'vi and humans in some form of Avatar culture. There's very little shots back to human actors, which was, you know, 50-50, I think, in the first Avatar movie. So immersing ourselves in Pandora allows Cameron to really refine the effects, to push what he can do with 48 frames per second. You're going to see these fluid visuals that take place over the course of the movie, and really, really, you know, are eye-popping things to keep your eye on. You could get lost, like lose track of the story, just because you're like paying attention to things that are happening in the background of this film. It's visually stunning, not to be surprised because it's Jim Cameron. But this time out, I was glad that the story matched the visuals, which wasn't necessarily the case for me for the first movie.
The way of water connects all things before your birth and after your death.
Okay, so it's a perfect movie, right? Not exactly. It is a 3.5 hour film, or 3 hours and 20 minutes. And I would be lying to say to you that if at some point in the middle of that, I didn't quite feel the length, because I did. I started to grow a little bit restless with the story of where it was going. And there are certain subplots that happen in the middle of the film that you're questioning yourself as to why you're watching them. But just know that they pay off in the end, because without giving away any spoilers whatsoever, I will say that the final hour of this film is Jim Cameron, the blockbuster filmmaker, flexing his muscle and showing every other blockbuster filmmaker how it's done. It is a essentially hour-long action set piece that involves multiple storylines coming together in a way that I just can't process how he did it. And it's him pulling references from every movie that you love of him. You see Titanic in there. You see True Lies in there. You see Aliens in there. You see The Abyss in there. Of course, you see the first Avatar. Like, Jim Cameron knows his way around an action set piece. Just go watch T2. Like, watch it back to back, because it's an incredible film, and he is a groundbreaking filmmaker in terms of what he does for action. And here, he brings all of those elements, combines them together, but he gives himself enough time to establish the characters in the story, so by the time we get to that final act, that last hour, we're invested because we care about the characters, and that's different from what it was the first time out. So yes, it's going to feel a little bit long. I understand you might feel a little bit of the length in the middle, but you need that kind of stuff because it's going to pay off at the end. It's just, is there 20 minutes that could have been taken out of this movie? Probably. I'll hear that argument from you guys once you had a chance to see it.
I need you with me. And I need you to be strong.
All right, as you can probably guess, that means that I'm giving Avatar: The Way of Water a 4.5 out of 5. Highly recommend that you go see this in a theater. And even if you are iffy on the first Avatar, because I probably gave it like a 3 out of 5. And that was primarily because of the visuals and the way that James Cameron was, you know, really experimenting with what was available in terms of the tools of filmmaking, but I didn't really care for the story. This time out, I fully cared for the story. I really loved the characters. And by the end of the film, I can honestly say I cannot wait to see where they're going with Avatar 3. Now, 4 and 5, I'm not quite sure. Like, you have to keep convincing me every single time we get into another Avatar movie that the next one is worthy. But this one is fantastic. I think it's going to do blockbuster numbers at the box office. And it's going to be the type of movie that you're going to want to bring all your friends to at the theater to sort of immerse yourself in Pandora once again, because Jim Cameron, surprise, surprise, has pulled it off and delivered yet another sort of masterful night at the movies. I can't wait to hear from you guys. If you guys want to, I can do a spoiler-filled review and get into one or two of the difficult things that may be nitpicked at me after the movie is out. But of course, we're going to want to break down all the things that work and don't work in this Avatar film. Make sure you're looking at our YouTube channel as well, too, because we have interviews with the cast and Mr. Cameron himself about his filmmaking process putting this movie together. And again, while you're here, make sure you hit subscribe. Turn on your notifications, and that way when we put up a new video breaking down something new in entertainment and pop culture, you guys will be able to come on over and watch it with us.